are back. Looking forward to this. You're a serial entrepreneur. You started Clarity. I still get Clarity, like text messages from Clarity all the time.
You make money, man. Are people asking for calls?
Yeah. It's always like it's very specific about outbound. I think I created my account like, I don't know. I remember I want to say I saw Clarity on like Beta List or something like that, like back in the day. Created an account and I've had probably, I don't know, pulled like $1,000 from it over the years.
Sweet.
I always forget, and then I look, and then all of a sudden there's a bunch of money. I'm like, okay, send that to PayPal. So I've done that a couple of times. It's been great. But Dan, you founded several multi-million-dollar tech companies, starting at the age of 17. You're an award-winning angel. You've invested in companies like Intercom, Udemy, Hootsuite, and Unbounce. A couple of locals there. I love it. We're going to talk a little bit about the Rocket Demo Builder template, which you and I went through on the podcast. I also saw you live. I want to say SaaS Talk in New York, but it's not SaaS Talk. It was a different presentation, but it was phenomenal. You've got the
LTV Conf.
LTV Conf. Thank you.
There you go. Thomas Small.
That's right. And today we're talking about positioning your SaaS product. So with that said, Dan, take it away.
Sweet. Well, I've got some slides just to help guide the conversation. So let me share my screen and we'll see if this works. You guys all see that?
You betcha.
Party. All right. Well, first off, Colin, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity. And how much time do I have? Because I know how much in my calendar, but I just don't know how much. Is it 20 minutes or 40 minutes or?
Yeah, we got about 25 minutes from here. Our next one is at you know what? We actually got 45. Our next one's at 10:30 Pacific.
I'm going to give you guys literally I'm going to put this out there because I'm cool with that. I'm going to make a claim. This is going to be the best presentation you guys ever see in your life. Big claim. I'm okay with that.
Challenge accepted.
And it starts off with me not even knowing how to spell my last name because there's 2 L's in Martell, which is just awesome. So that just tells you a little bit about my attention to detail. But I'm going to tell you in a sec why it doesn't matter and how you guys can leverage all of that to really crush your positioning. So today I've got a few things I want to share. One thing is the issue that some of you guys may be dealing with if you're interested in this topic, which is feeling like you look like the same as everybody else, like a normal company solving the exact same problem as everybody else. And it can be frustrating because you might feel like you have something unique and better, but from a market's point of view, you look like everybody else. What you want to do is do a little purple cow. So Seth Godin wrote a book. It's probably one of the first 10 books I ever read in my life called The Purple Cow. The whole argument is real simple. We want to be unique. We want to be distinct. We want to stand out in a sea of same, so that people remember us, talk about us, et cetera, et cetera. I actually was reading this. I took this picture 3 days ago, and I thought it was really unique perspective on positioning. The author, the book is called The Business of Expertise. The author, I believe, is David C. Baxter, but the Business of Expertise. And his argument is around positioning, but not for what most people use it as in regards to, better marketing, better sales process, et cetera. Because if we have a tight understanding of our perfect fit customer, it makes it really easy for us to communicate. His argument was actually one that I appreciated a lot, which was if we don't pick a group of like-minded customers to position against, then we won't see patterns in regards to how they use or derive value from our product. And if we don't see patterns, then we don't create unique perspective. And that unique perspective is what informs the product, which makes our product a better solution for that specific customer. So I actually love that idea. And I really want to share it with all of you guys because I take positioning very seriously. And I think that the ability to find patterns in your customers' use cases to build better product flows is what's going to allow you to win in your market. So I really liked what the author had to say. Real quick backstory on me. I'm going to give you guys the 60-second version. Software literally saved my life. As a teenager, I got diagnosed with ADHD, had a really bad self-worth problem, and then an anger issue that translated into me being taken out of my home and put into foster care group homes and crisis centers at a very young age, about 12 years old. My mom was an alcoholic. My father was in sales, essentially a workaholic, never home. And I'm the second oldest of 4 kids. I grew up in the East Coast of Canada, where I live today, split my time between here and San Diego. And it was at 16 years old, after my life spiraled out of control, that I found myself in a high-speed chase, drunk and high, trying to get away from the police with a handgun sitting next to me in a backpack. And in one of the maneuvers, I ended up smashing in the side of the house and went for the handgun, because I said to myself when I sold the car that if I got caught, I was going to pull the gun on the police and let them do their job. And for whatever reason, the gun got stuck as I pulled on it, and the door opened and the police grabbed me and threw me in the back of the cop car. And I woke up sober the next morning as a 16-year-old, wondering what my life was going to look like, and just realizing that somebody must have been looking out for me, because there's no real good reason why I was still alive. And shortly after I got released or sentenced to an adult facility, where I spent 5 to 6 months in jail, in prison, and released after that to a place called Portage, which was a rehab center. And it all connects back to software in a second, because I did 11 months of therapy, worked on myself, rebuilt my relationships with my family, regained the trust that I had lost, really worked on my emotional intelligence, my emotional health and self-worth. And I had incredible people show up in my life that really believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And at the end of that program, I was helping Rick, one of the maintenance guys, clean out this cabin. It was an old church camp where this place, Portage, was built. And one of the cabins, we'd never been in there. And, he opens up one of the locked rooms, and there's this old 486 computer and a yellow book on Java programming sitting right next to it. And I opened the book expecting to read, hieroglyphics or hexadecimal numbers, some kind of foreign language. And it read like English. And I booted up this old computer and entered in the Java terminal, the instructions in chapter 1. And I got the computer to say hello world, which made me feel at the moment, unfoundly so, like a genius. I thought maybe I was the Doogie Howser of software. Some of you older people are going to get that reference. Everybody else, you don't know who Doogie Howser is. That's okay. Unfortunately, turns out I'm not a genius when it comes to programming, but I thought so at the time. And what happened is writing code became my new addiction. I got obsessed. And shortly after, I started building products and apps and companies, and became an entrepreneur, although I didn't call that back then, 1998. And entrepreneurship became the ultimate personal development program to really force me into creating a better life for myself. And I've been super lucky and blessed, as Colin mentioned, to have gone on now and started 5 software companies, technology companies, exited the last 3, raised venture capital for the last 2, started angel investing about 12 years ago. Naval Ravikant from AngelList is one of my mentors. I've invested in 40 plus companies. And today I have the privilege of coaching some of the best and coolest and funnest B2B SaaS founders around the world in my program, SaaS Academy. And I also run one of the top YouTube channels. And what really got me, and I'm going to talk about position in a sec, is the reoccurring revenue aspect of SaaS is what really resonated, because I grew up in this life of chaos and uncertainty. And there's just something beautiful about the predictability and the honestly, of reoccurring revenue, where every month you have to prove your value. And if you can do that in a repeatable, scalable way, then you win the customer. And it's to this day, I've never strayed away from reoccurring revenue businesses. It just speaks to my soul. And it's why I'm so passionate personally about helping other software entrepreneurs like yourselves really nail the different components of what I call the ACEs growth engine: attract, convert, expand, and scale. So that is my quick story. Positioning is hard, because a lot of times we run into what we know is right, which is the apple, versus what we want to choose, which is more cool, like this, delicious looking donut. And I ran into that in every one of my companies, where I built this incredible technology. I'm a software programmer. I'm a tech guy. Clarity, I wanted to be this like Uber for advice, and I wanted to position it that way. But at the end of the day, you have to work backwards from the customer. And I call that chocolate broccoli. You guys can write that down. Chocolate broccoli. Chocolate broccoli is the concept of giving the customers what they want, not what you think they need. And you can always market and position against the chocolate, but then you get permission to bring into your, once you get them into your world, into the need, right? So that's why positioning is really tough, is because it's hard to choose, even though we know what's right. So I'm going to ask everybody, I don't know if we have chat enabled. Colin, am I able to see a chat somewheres? Chatty chat. Yep, 42 right here. Perfect. I'm going to ask everybody to answer this question in the chat. Why is it so hard to position your product? I want to hear from everybody in the chat from your perspective. Why is it so hard to position your product? I want to hear from everybody in the chat. John Stern, what's up, man? It's good to see you. Alan says too close to it. Amazing. I want to hear from everybody in the chat. Same tool, different uses. Don't understand the job, subscription-based, same words, always amazing, amazing mindset changes. It costs a lot. Lack of market research, true broad use cases, making it simple, similar products. People talk about it, complexity, etc. Incredible. All of these things are true. What I want to share with you today is a quick model to think about, and I'm just going to share my iPad. So iPhone AirPlay, no, I'm going to do the cable, make sure that rocks and rolls. So you guys should be able to see my iPad. So the way I think about positioning, when people are like, who should I choose as a customer? We'll get into kind of like, different examples. But the way I think about it is I want to be up here, okay, up and to the right. And there's kind of two dimensions that I'm going to look at. I'm going to go, who's got the highest unmet need in the market? And then I'm going to go quickest, and easiest, and biggest check size. So a lot of you guys may have a bunch of different options for who you focus on as the target market from your positioning point of view, but I really want to challenge you to focus on this top right quadrant of the market, because to me, if you have the option today from a positioning point of view to attract a certain type of customer that you know has the highest unmet needs, meaning they are a starving crowd, okay? The easiest way for you to sell a hamburger is not market the hamburger, it's find a starving crowd, okay? So we need to find the unmet need. And then on the right side, we need to find people that are gonna be quickest, easiest, and they're going to write the biggest check, because if you can take your product and position it for the customer who's willing to write the biggest check, I work predominantly with B2B SaaS founders that are bootstrapped, then you're going to be able to self-fund your growth into the future, because if you position the product so that you can get $1,000 a month versus $200 a month, that $1,000 a month is going to come with a higher gross margin, which you're going to be able to reinvest in growth. But I know what some of you guys are thinking, but Dan, I have 10 different use cases. I have a horizontal solution. What do I do? Here's what you do. I call it the bowling pin strategy. Bowling pin strategy, strut, is you need to think about going market by market. So every product that you've ever used, it's hard to see after the fact how they started. But from everything from Foursquare to Slack to Salesforce, et cetera, because you're just seeing it now. If you actually go into the Wayback Machine and look at websites, including LinkedIn and many others, what they said on day one of their website, their marketing site, versus what they said literally every year, they kind of perfect their what's called the message market matching. It changes. So it's hard for us to pattern match against existing companies because we see what they're doing today. We don't see what they did year one, year two, year three. So use the Wayback Machine. But I'm going to tell you this. The best way to really use a bowling pin strategy is to understand what's the MRR target for the next 12 months. Where do you want to be? If you know that, let's say you're at 10K now and you want to get to 100K, choose 100K. Then the question you got to ask yourself is, what's the highest potential target market that I could focus on that if I chose, even though I'm willing to move on, if I get to the 100K, for the next 12 months, there's enough of a market, they have the highest unmet need, and they're going to write me the biggest possible check the fastest, that's going to allow me to get to that level of MRR. That's going to help you focus on that customer or that target market. That's number one, right? And we need to focus on one market, from our messaging, from our onboarding, from our case studies, from our pitch deck, from the Rocket demo. Like every aspect of our go-to-market or sales motion should ideally be focused on this one customer. Now, if somebody comes along and they're willing to buy your product, take their money. But in regards to partnership strategies, advertising strategies, et cetera, you want to pick that number one. Now, it also means that you want to figure out what's number 2 and 3, the logical, what I call a close cousin, okay? A close cousin. When I started Clarity, I focused on founders and SEO advice. Marketing is a kind of a general category. And even within SEO, I started with SEO. I reached out to my buddy Neil Patel. He did some calls. I realized he wanted too much money, priced himself out of the market. I found some other SEO experts, not as popular, but still known, and filled out that kind of like liquidity and supply side. And then I went into, okay, well, if there's SEO, there's Facebook ads. And then I kind of broadened out the marketing, if you want to call that the first pin, marketing. Then I said, well, what's a close cousin to marketing? Well, for me, it was obvious, BD, business development, still in the same vein as demand gen, but a little different. Then if I'm doing BD, then I'm looking at sales. And those became the close cousins. And you kind of do that per row. But again, you don't go to number 2 row until you nail the number 1, and then you can go number 3 and number 4 and really build that momentum. This is why companies create what I call escape velocity. They start off and they look like this, and then eventually they go like that, is because they stack their growth. So you'll hear me say often growth stacking. Growth stacking is like compound interest, and all of our activities, including positioning, is an opportunity for us to build momentum, because every time we deploy a new growth tactic or a new market, it feeds the previous one and it stacks up. It's just like compound interest will compound your returns as you stack new investment vehicles that generate those returns, because it adds to the base of capital or growth that you're growing. Okay, so that is how we essentially overcome the belief that you have that, well, I got so many different people you can serve. How do you focus? This is how we do it, and allows you to still be creative, allows you to build a horizontal product. But from a marketing and sales motion point of view, we go to market with that. So I want to ask all of you in the chat, what's been the most important thing for you to hear so far in my conversation? I want to hear from everybody in the chat for you today. What's been the most important thing for you to hear today? What's resonated the most with you so far? I want to hear from everybody in the chat. I'm hearing ruthless focus, chocolate broccoli, choco broccoli, focus on market, bowling pin strategy, bowling pin top quadrant, horizontal, unmet need, quickest to buy, chocolate broccoli, exclamation marks, unmet need, growth stacking, growth stacking, growth stacking, chalk brock, quickest to buy, find the starving crowd, etc. Growth strategies. Appreciate you guys so much for being interactive, being live. Makes it a lot of fun for me. So I'm going to go back to my slides and share with you 4 hot principles that I think will really serve you when it comes to positioning. Or sorry, 3 hot principles. How would you feel if you nailed your position? I just want to hear the word in the chat. What would the feeling be if you nailed your positioning? What's the word for you in the chat? No judgment. I just want to hear from everybody. Write it in the chat. What is the feeling? Glorious, calm, elated, happy, explosion, bam, authoritative, orgasmic, sweet, not very far, cash, great relief, rich, rocket ship growth, boom. You guys are amazing. This is exactly why I'm here, is to serve all the people posting in the chat. So here's what I got for you. 3 hot principles. Number 1, you got to create a competitive differentiator. You need to understand, what does the landscape look like? So for me, I'm going to give you guys a trick when I think of competition, because sometimes what's being marketed in the space is not what's being used in the sales process. One of my strategies is to play secret shopper. I love to go through a sales process of my competition, to be exposed to their case studies, communication, email drip campaigns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of you guys may feel like that's a bit like just not fair, I'd say, hey, you can do it to me. Like, I'm cool. If you want to come check out what I'm doing, come check it out. That's cool. Because what I've discovered over the years is most companies have no clue what they're doing, and copying them verbatim is very not intelligent. And what we want to do is just be inspired. So when I try to do competitive research and understand how they're positioning their product internally, because sometimes the external doesn't match the internal, where the sales teams are getting really good win rates, I'm just looking for inspiration. Okay. And I really want to use it to kind of guide my kind of research space, try to find the white space in the market that's different than what they're using. Now, I want to share with you a quick case study. Carrot is a client of mine. Trevor is an incredible entrepreneur. He's out of Oregon, Roseburg, Oregon, named one of the fastest growing SaaS companies in the United States on the Inc. 5000, number, I think it was 699. And one of the things they realized, they served the real estate investor market, helped them generate leads, is they needed to stand out and differentiate. And one of the ways they did that is to really position themselves in regards to speed and conversion quality. So they created the most effective, fast, and highest converting lead opt-in form. So an investor didn't need to figure out what was good copy. He literally just had to answer a questionnaire, and they would generate these essentially marketing sites for the real estate investors. And then the real estate investors just had to do their job, which is point traffic to the site, and it would do its job. And they use that as their unique differentiator to start dominating in the space. And it's why they've been able to be one of the fastest growing SaaS companies, bootstrapped, I might add, no funding, because I'm a big fan and I'm very intrigued by studying people that have been able to do it. Because to me, if you can make it grow without funding, then you add capital and then it's an accelerant. It is truly rocket fuel to an efficient model. So that's how finding the differentiator based on how everybody else may have similar features, but you pick the thing that you actually can do that matters to the market, and you go all in on that positioning. So that's one. Number two is we're looking for unique attributes. Okay, we're in the lab, we're looking around our product, and we're trying to figure out what is it that we do that people value that's different. The unique attributes. And it's different for all companies. But what I've discovered, and you can use this question, okay, I'm going to give you this question you can ask your customers, which is, how do you explain our product to a colleague or friend? Okay, so you survey your customers, you ask them that question, and they're going to answer it. And the reason why you ask that question is because they may be describing a part of your tool that you don't even talk that much about on your marketing site that could be the unlock for your unique attribute. For example, one of my clients, David at Deal Machine, when he came to me, they were just cracked about $1 million in MRR or ARR, and really wanted, never built, he's a real estate investor. He really wanted to learn how to scale a SaaS. And originally his app was, a real estate investor management platform to kind of like manage a CRM essentially. And when he did this investigation, talking to his customers, he realized that all the customers really thought about Deal Machine was the fact that they unlock the ability. It's a really cool feature once you hear it, but it was buried in a postcard app. So Deal Machine lets you send postcards to houses that you might want to buy, that you want to flip. And that was their positioning. The easiest way to send postcards for real estate deals. And then they realized that the feature they built to essentially manage drivers, think about activating Uber drivers and say, hey, as you're driving people around and you see a house is distressed, I want you to take a picture of it, and then the app will automatically send the postcard. And if I end up buying it, you'll get a commission. Or you can just say, based on volume, I'll pay you X amount of money. He built that into his product, but was not front loaded on his website from a unique attribute point of view. Once he did that survey to the customers and discovered that, he changed everything, and he's now grown 10x in 12 months, literally, on pace to be a 10 million ARR company in the next few months. Driving for real estate deals at scale is the new positioning. The product didn't change. We just front loaded the unique attribute that was the most valuable to customers. And the way we figure that out is we ask them. Number 3, market category. So to me, this is about figuring out what area of the market can we add the most value, the unmet need. And I talked about that earlier in regards to, trying to use quickest to buy, biggest check, unmet need, et cetera. And sometimes it's just going to require you to dig into your customer base. If you have 100 or 200 customers, there's probably some bright spots you want to look at. And bright spots are people. Maybe you're on a sales call, and as you're talking to them, you just notice a certain type of customer really gets it, like they get it like that, and they're just quick to buy. And I had a client, I want to tell you a great story. I love Reg. Reg is one of my oldest coaching clients. I've been working with them for 3 years now. And for 2 years, and he knows this because I use his example quite often, he refused to choose a segment. He said, look, we've got this freemium, he called it his retail business, his credit card business, because that's what he called the recurring revenue, kind of low $50, $100 a month, because he was really excited to go after elephant hunting. He really enjoyed the enterprise sale. He loved closing, the banks and a few, those customers that he would get. And, after literally spending 16 months trying to build an enterprise sales team and not, having a ton of pipeline opportunity, but nothing actually closing, he realized he needed to take a different approach. And we sat down, I said, Rich, let's just dive into the customers. Let's look at I get you want to hunt for elephants, but are there some deers in here? Is there like something meaty that are quicker, something that we can get, 20, 25K ACVs versus, the 6-7 figure deals that you're going after? And I gave him that challenge, and he went on a journey. And I remember the day he literally sent me a text message and he said, I got it. Can we talk? And I called him right away. I said, what do you got? And he said, agile coaches working with remote teams. I said, what do you mean, Reg? Stormboard is a platform that lets you collaborate in a virtual world. And he said, dude, I figured it out. I said, what? He goes, look, the people that need our platform the most, look, we'll still take I said, can you stop calling it the retail customers? It's called the SMB, segment. It's SMBs. And they're not retail. Like, you can't discount them. They're SMB. You got mid-market, you got enterprise. He's like, all right, the mid-market customer, if they're an agile coach, meaning they use an agile development process, and they have a remote team, we're winning 90% of the conversations that we get on the phone with somebody that passes that filter. And that changed everything. It changed his go-to-market. We built in an outbound LinkedIn strategy that's scaled up. The messaging on that is brilliant. He uses the ask for advice, get a customer strategy. A lot of people have never heard that, but I believe in life, you can ask for money and you'll get advice, but if you ask for advice, you will get money. And Reg used that same strategy for his LinkedIn. He would reach out to coaches and say like, yeah, I'd love to give you advice on our new platform, Stormboard, that specializes in helping agile teams manage remote collaboration, et cetera. And they'd be like, yeah, I'd love to give you 15 minutes to show your product. And every time they'd be like, I want this. How do I buy it? And he would get in conversations with a deal, sell the POC, and move up stack. So that is the idea of market category, figuring out specifically who you're going to focus and check out your messaging. So 3 things that I shared today, 3 quick takeaways that I want to make sure that you guys really challenge yourself on. Number 1, what makes you different than others? Your differentiators. Number 2, how do you figure out and highlight your unique features and front load those in your marketing message so that the customer, when they sign up or they call you, they're looking for that unique feature because that's the thing that resonates with them that's valuable. And then 3rd is figure out what market category you can be the most relevant for. If you do that, you will have created powerful positioning. Your business will skyrocket and you will feel like a rock star, all the things that you guys said you wanted to accomplish. So with that, I want to thank you, Colin, for the opportunity. And I would love to hear, again, your guys' biggest takeaway in the chats. It would mean a lot to me, just as a quick feedback loop, to understand what resonated the most. So feel free to post that in the chat. And if we have time for Q&A, we'll do that.
You betcha. Thanks, Dan.
Oh, I forgot. Precision Scorecard. I was going to give away the Rocket demo, but I think for this talk, the Precision Scorecard is the most powerful framework. And the reason why is it's going to allow you to measure the impact of your position changes. So the Precision Scorecard Builder is essentially a 5-step process. And this is the worksheet that I give. If you want to go to Dan Martell, again, 2Ls, martell.com/precision scorecard, you can download your copy. And it is how I manage all of the companies that I'm involved in, all my investment portfolios and all my companies. We set the targets for the month and the quarter. We measure the weeklies, and we look at the actuals. All the metrics are there that you can kind of map to the different functions in your business. And that way, as you're changing position, you can see how it's affecting the positive or the internal metrics in a positive direction for your growth. So that is my gift to all of you for being on here live.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. We do have a few more minutes, and so I'm going to open it up. Questions. If you could help me out on Zoom, well, if you're on Twitch, throw it in the Slack live stream in the live chat. We've got a live chat channel. If you're in Zoom, throw it in the Q&A. It looks like we've got one here so far. Let me pull that one out. When dealing with a niche market, how might the bowling pin strategy differ?
Yeah, so if I think niche, right, I have some clients that their niche market, like Gloria, she serves like a certain type of lab for managing lab tests and whatnot. I don't think it matters. My suggestions to people is go for uncomfortably narrow in the early days. Here's what I mean by uncomfortably narrow is even though I might want to serve, let's call it flower shops. Flower shops is a pretty big market. Maybe they're in trouble right now, but in generally speaking, flower shops, there's tens of thousands probably across the US. What I want to do is really, really dial that in even further. So I might even ask myself, what technology do my perfect fit customers use? So maybe it's flower shops that have a point of sale system. If they're not using a point of sale system or a specific point of sale system, I'm not going to approach them. Or specifically for local service businesses, people that sell to, I have clients like Service Autopilot that work with anybody that sends a truck to a home. Structure Studios is land 3D modeling for pool designers. Anybody that sells to local services, I always like to do geographies, because from a advertising and a compression, I always think of like positioning is almost the opportunity to, like when you're pumping up a tire, if you go too broad, then the tire has too much tube and the pump will never like kind of fill the tire and create compression in the market or penetration. And what we want to do is really like tighten that up geographically speaking, so that all of a sudden now the sales process and the sales motion is easier, your sales velocity, because you can now use references in a market that they would know about. Hey, we work with this flower shop, and they're like, oh, I know them. It's like, yeah, we work with them. We work with the other people down the street. And as soon as you can do that in a market, it just increases your sales velocity by maybe 2x in regards to your efficiency, because, birds of a feather flock together, and people want to buy from other people that they look up to or admire that they know about.
Perfect. Somebody asked, any tips on positioning when your product is currently missing a core feature?
Yeah. So I call it living in the future. Okay. 6 months is about the right amount. When you ask me like, how far in the future can I live? My co-founder at Flowtown, Ethan, used to call me Sell Martell. I used to essentially pre-sell as much as I could the product. I know it's funny, but it's kind of a balance between customer development and literally sales. So my rule was I do the customer discovery call first. So let's say it's a 30-minute call. I'd spend 15 minutes doing a market research or customer discovery. And then at the midpoint, I would then transition into a sales call, still get the order, but I would never sell further than 6 months into the roadmap. And I would still be very clear with them and say, hey, I want to show you a clickable prototype of a feature that we've got on the roadmap. Here's how it's going to work. It's not available yet. It's going to be available in Q4. But what we're doing for anybody that wants to be part of the early adopter program is we're allowing them to invest annual for 50% off or whatever. You've got to create what's called a MEVO, a minimum economical viable offer. But I'm a big fan of positioning ahead of your product, but not more than 6 months, because that's when you're going to get in trouble in regards to, delayed roadmap and product features and customer expectations.
Yeah, that's fair. And if I've learned anything about estimating software development, it's probably more like what you think sell 3 months ahead, because those 3 months are probably going to take you 6 months to get to.
It's literally double. I remember my buddy Curtis, actually, he's Innovative Fitness in Vancouver. He's like, hey man, we're going to build this software. And I was like, oh, scary. You guys are a fitness studio. what's the quote? And he said 11 months or whatever. And I said, double it. And if you're still okay with that quote, then do it. If not, don't do it. And he's like, really? And I'm like, I would put all my money on it, really. He's like, really? And I'm like my whole net worth on it, bro. Like, that's how consistent software development delays are. It's just, you, as a person who's been doing it for 20 years, I just literally do the calculation in my head and kind of plan accordingly. But as you know, Colin, that's just the case sometimes.
Yeah, totally. Hilarious connection with Innovative Fitness. They were one of the first like big public talks or big talks, sales talks I did like 8 years ago. A connection through a
Did you
connection.
get to meet Curtis?
I think so. Yeah.
Curtis?
Is he one of the founders or a franchise owner?
Yeah. Smiles like nobody's business.
Christofferson?
Dude. Yeah, Christofferson.
Yeah, it's him and his brother, right?
I don't know if Matt's actually involved in it. Matt might have owned a franchise, but Curtis is the founder.
And Matt's the one that brought was Matt the one that brought Stevia in to Canada or North America?
Yeah. I think Stevia or Zevia, or it could have been Stevia.
Could have been. I can't remember which one it was. But
okay,
anyway,
I know he's all into that kind of, even the Vega, he's the founder of Vega and all that fun stuff. But yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I'll have to say hi to him next time. They gave me a cycling jacket, and I still wear that cycling jacket. Like, I've got others, but it's my favorite so far.
Yeah. Is it a Lulu? I know he said he had a brand deal with Lulu to do Innovative Fitness. My kids wear their stuff. I mean, anyways, side tangent over. Apologize, everybody.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
So we've got one here from VJ saying, how does a new entrant manage positioning in a market with like market leaders that are 10 years old?
Well, I love market leaders of 10 years. What we want to do is we want to figure out what our product hook is, right? So I think of a product hook as like a toehold in the market that is differentiated. So let's say your 10-year-old market entrants, they do a bunch of stuff. You want to find the one thing that they're not doing that their customer base is asking for. There's ways to figure that out. One, you can literally try to get on calls with customers of theirs. I've done that. I've ran ads for them to, you can pay people to get certain people on a call. You can use LinkedIn, obviously. You can use builtwith.com if they have like public technology. So you can figure out what companies are using their technology and then reach out to them and say, I'd love to get your advice on how you guys use product X. But the idea is to figure out what's that one hook feature, right? That one hook. And then maybe there's two other things you got to add to make it a complete solution. And that's where it goes back to the MIVO, minimum economical viable offer, because usually it's three core features. The first feature is the hook, the thing that you do that's different that they don't do yet. And then the other two are usually kind of table stakes. Like if you're going to do a certain type of lead gen tool, you might need a light CRM, for example. But you still want to figure out what that primary hook is going to be to give you a toehold into the market. And once you're in there, you can kind of, create more space by developing the feature set more broadly. But it has to be valuable enough that on its own, people will buy. And the best way is literally talk to people that use the solution and say, for example, I'll give you a real example. My buddy that he built Right Message. What's his name? Rightmessage.com. I'm blanking because I talked to a lot of founders. But his hook was synchronizing email list and so your email list from your email marketing tools like an Infusionsoft or HubSpot or whatever with your remarketing as well, but also allowing you to dynamically change the messaging on your website. For example, if somebody was a customer and you knew they were a customer because you tagged them and they went back to your website, you would change copy on the homepage, or maybe you would change features to support or whatever. So the idea was originally the hook was synchronizing your remarketing list, so that if somebody became a customer, you'd have it would automatically synchronize in like Facebook or LinkedIn or any remarketing advertising platform. And that hook became the basis of what became Right Message, which is dynamic marketing messages, depending on who the visitor is when they come to your site. If they come from a TechCrunch article, the content's going to change. If they come from a partner website, it's going to message something totally different. Hence the name Right Message. So that's the idea is what is the product hook that you can then build the business around to get into a market, even if it's got a 10-year-old entrenching. Another company, Classy. I'm a advisor and equity holder in classy.org. They're in the nonprofit space. in the early days, Scott and the team there, they were the only tool that lets you just add a crowdfunding widget to your charitable activity or to an events page or whatever it was. The incumbent Blackbaud didn't have that kind of crowdfunding concept and with a widget, and they used that to literally spend 3 or 4 years just getting into the market, chipping away at the market. And then over time, they had the resources to build out the product set to where today they go head to head with the Blackbaud in the nonprofit fundraising space.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Dan. And I think it was Brennan Dunn is the guy that you were referring to.
Brennan, yes. I tried to hire him as a CTO when I built Clarity.
Perfect.
And he's just a driven, smart dude. Big fan.
I threw his name in the chat there, but I'm also going to throw it in the Slack. We have Jamie Buss from Zendesk, the VP of Sales over at Zendesk, on the other line, on the other Zoom. So we got to wrap here. But Dan, thank you so much for coming on. I threw a link to the danmartell.com, Dan Martell with 2 L's, precision scorecard in the Slack chat. So everybody, if you want, Dan's going to be there, but we're going to jump to the Jamie Buss one. I'm going to kill this. Dan, thanks so much for being
Appreciate
here.
You crushed all. It. Thanks so much, Don.
I love the iPad. That was such a gangster move with I'm just going to show you how much better I am at Zoom than everybody else.
Yeah,
no big deal.
All right.